Let's get more analysis on this from Ulrich Brueckner, Professor of European Studies at Stanford University in Berlin. Welcome to you, Ulrich. So, I mean, I'll start with that. Why not? The border region of Donbass. But if President Zelensky wants a deal, and he said once again, he's doubled and tripled, quadrupled down on this, that it's not up to him to give away territory and he doesn't want to give territory. But he has to give Donbass region, doesn't he, if he wants a peace deal? Because it's got Russian speakers, it's got Russian passport holders, and it's just non-negotiable for Russia, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's non-negotiable because we haven't really negotiated yet. Russia refuses any form of direct negotiations, and they stubbornly insist on we don't make any compromises and no concession. Although what we have seen in the last 4 years is that Russia only managed to occupy 75% of Donbass, which has been defined as the ultimate goal of this war. And in order to complete the 100%, according to analysts from both sides of the conflict, it would take another 4 years for Russia to do it militarily, which means that it would cost a fortune if Russia continues to dump $1 billion per day on this special military operation. This is quite a position that is difficult to hold even for an authoritarian system.
You say that, and yet, when you look at the tone and the way both sides speak, President Zelensky and allies, the tone today is one of optimism, maybe even a little excitement that the progress is being made, maybe security guarantees. Whenever we hear from our correspondent who's quoting the Kremlin, the tone coming from them is always like, well, we haven't even seen it yet, and when we do look at it, well, we don't know. It's always one of, I feel like the Kremlin's dragging its heels. So does that suggest that it actually wants this war to continue?
Well, it's really difficult to say how they tick because everything they say is part of the propaganda that Ukraine doesn't exist as a sovereign state. And this is not about territory, but they use Donbass to destabilize Ukraine. The country with the largest territory in the world doesn't simply steal a chunk of its neighboring country. This is part of a much bigger mission Putin is on to destabilize Europe, and this is also seen as a direct confrontation with what the European Union stands for. So there's much more in this than just trying to control the most important raw materials in Ukraine that, according to analysts, stands for 15 trillion US dollars, what could be exploited there, which also makes it very attractive for the Trump family to get a chunk from this pie. And that also makes it more difficult to predict in what direction we are heading.
Ulrich, I feel like we've seen good cop, bad cop, good Zelensky, bad Zelensky this week, because he said, OK, we're going to give up finally on NATO membership. Then today he's come out and said, whatever happens, Russia has to be punished for what it did. This was wrong. There has to be a strong punishment. So is this a carrot and a stick approach?
I don't think so, because we have to distinguish between what Putin says and what Zelensky says, because Zelensky is a democratically elected president of a country in which the demos forms an opinion, and that defines the room for maneuver for Zelensky as the president who responds to his demos. And the demos has a position in which they simply cannot just give in and sacrifice an important part of Ukraine, which is economically a backbone, and would also allow Russia to get away as the aggressor with a massive violation of international law, not to speak of all the people from Ukraine who live there. So it's about the cultural dimension, it's the geostrategic dimension, it's Ukraine would be open if the defense line in Donbass would be given without an additional shot on the negotiation table to Russia. It all comes with so many negative consequences that it's perfectly understandable that Zelensky appears the way he does.
Ulrich, great to speak to you. Thanks for coming on. My guest, Ulrich Brueckner, Professor at Stanford University in Berlin.